This is Monday, April 20th, 2009. It is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. The first thing on our agenda, as always, is a Pledge of Allegiance, and usually I have the honor of recognizing a Cub Scout or a Boy Scout pack in the room, and they're out doing their civic duty and collecting badges and medals towards their various levels of accomplishment. Tonight, as I came in the room, I had an opportunity to recognize that we have a number of members of the Elmhurst VFW Lodges here with us this evening. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us tonight. I would ask you to please rise and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'd ask the city clerk to please call the roll, establish quorum.
Regan.
Here.
Gutenkopf.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Shea.
Here.
Bram.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Gow.
Here.
Hipskin.
Here.
Moriarty.
Here.
Nybo.
Here.
Sapaniak. Absent. Morley.
Here.
Lomnicki.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
13 present, 1 absent.
13 present, 1 absent. We do have a quorum. Okay, very good. Thank you. Moving on, receipt of written communications and petitions from the public. This is number 2 on our agenda. Do we have any such written communications or petitions that anyone would like to hand in to the city clerk this evening? Anyone at all? No? Okay, very good. We then move on to the public forum, number 3 on our agenda. This is the point in our agenda where anyone in the council chamber can address the Elmhurst City Council on any issue of public interest here in the city of Elmhurst. Would anyone like to be recognized? This gentleman just stood up here, so I'll recognize him. I'll get Darlene, I'll come back to you in a bit. Sir, I don't know if you've been here before. One of the things we ask folks to do is to not move to the microphone until you've been recognized by the chair, but you have been recognized by the chair. You can use that microphone there or this podium here. If you've never done this before, let me tell you a little bit about how we do it. We ask that you start with your name and your home address, and then after that, you get 3 minutes. You can talk about anything you want. If you've come with 5 people, you don't get 15 minutes. Everybody gets 3 minutes. That's the way we do it. That assures that everybody has an opportunity to get to the microphone and say whatever happens to be on their mind. We ask that you don't ask a question for which you need an immediate answer, and I think it'll be all right. You can start, sir, anytime, name and home address.
My name is Joseph Esposito. My home address is 448 Raintree Court in Glen Ellen, Illinois. I am the commander of the VFW post here in Elmhurst. And my reason for being here this evening, Mr. Mayor, is to present you with a plaque. Mr. Mayor, on behalf of the members of Walter A. Gloss Post 2048 Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States of America and its Ladies Auxiliary, it gives me great pleasure to present you with this plaque as a token of our esteem. The inscription reads, "Special Recognition for Exceptional Service, Thomas D. Marsucci, Mayor of Elmhurst, 1993 to 2009, presented April 20th, 2009, Walter A. Gloss, VFW Post 2048. Permission to approach the bench.
Yes, sir. I'll meet you at this microphone here on the side. Well, obviously, thank you very much. This is a surprise to me. I wouldn't have read you all those rules and regulations there, but being in the military, I'm sure you're used to those.
Of course.
In your time, but that's just the way we do it here. It's been my pleasure and my honor to work with the fellows over at the VFW and the American Legion here in Elmhurst. They make us very proud. They put on a couple of terrific parades, and we have a wonderful service on Memorial Day, which we televise to the entire community. I think it's terrific, and similarly on 11/11 every a year. Very important that we support our veterans and the folks in the armed forces the best we can. As an aside, I'll tell you and the community that earlier today I was with the Vanek family in Des Plaines, where they were commemorating and naming a room in their building up there, and I'm not going to mention the name of it because I'll say it wrong, but basically it's the induction room where every young man and woman entering into the armed forces out of the Chicago area goes to the same room, and in a very nice decorated room with flags and a podium, etc., take the oath, and as the commanding officer there today said, change their life. It's a life-changing event to enter into the military, and oftentimes their family is there, and etc. And this room has now been named after Elmhurst's very own Joe Vanek. And they will take that oath of office under his portrait, and a little story about Joe and who he was and what he accomplished in his short time with us. And we are very, very proud of him, and we are very, very proud of RVFW. Thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Well, very kind, unexpected. Anybody else would like to address the Elmhurst City Council? Yeah, on the aisle, please.
For the record, I'm not here to give you an award. My name is Darlene Heslop, and I live at 200 North Michigan Avenue, number 227 in Elmhurst. With all the hoopla surrounding the retirement of a particular elected official, it has been easy to overlook that another long-serving public servant made the decision not to seek re-election. 4th Ward Alderman John Gow announced this past fall he would join Mayor Marcucci in calling this term his last. Alderman Gow has served this community well. He has set the standard to which each person sitting on this dais should conduct themselves. Always the professional, he has showed respect for the position of alderman. He valued the stellar jobs that the city staff did. He paid compliments when they were long overdue. It would behoove members of this dais to take note, be it when addressing members of the staff or each other. His demeanor and tone were always appropriate, and his discussion pertinent and to the point. He valued the professional expertise of his colleagues and never overstepped his boundaries. He always came to the dais prepared. He was a wonderful debater, constantly seeking answers to questions before coming to a conclusion. He has been open-minded, willing to see different sides to the same issue. Though I did not always agree with him, he would give an explanation for his decision, which not all seemed to be able to adequately provide. He always acted in what he believed was the best interest of Elmhurst, not only for the short term, but for the long run. Alderman Gow has been a forward thinker. He has been a supporter of the TIF as he saw the benefits. A community does not have to be a ghost town before a TIF is necessary. Successful continued investment is actually often contingent on the existence of said districts. Keeping tax dollars in our community for continued infrastructure improvements allows for smaller tax bills for our residents. Robert Palmer Drive received a much-needed resurfacing a year ago, compliments of TIF. Had we not had this TIF in place, the entire cost of that project would have been borne by the residents of this city. As a 4th Ward resident, I have always felt as if Alderman Gow was available. He answered his phone calls, he answered his letters, and he followed through. Even with his last election in which he ran unopposed, he still made sure to treat it as if he was still a candidate. He made sure we knew he appreciated our support and that we all knew he considered us to be important. Alderman Gow accomplished much in his tenure. When he leaves this dais for the last time tonight, just like the mayor, he will take with him his shoes. In public service, it should never be about someone else filling a particular pair of shoes, for each individual is unique, but instead about standards being set. I believe that for the 14 members of the dais in front of me, the challenge will be to strive to someday live up to the high standards set by Alderman Gow. his intelligence, his decorum on the dais, and his continually acting on behalf of the residents of Elmhurst. I wish him and his bride, former Alderman Olivia Gow, nothing but fun, luck, and happiness in the years to come. You will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Sentiments. Sentiments shared by everyone on the dais, I'm sure. I'll let the record note that I spent 16 years trying to stop people from applauding after public input like that, so that we couldn't be badgering the elected officials into one position or another, but that is a position that I'm sure we all share. So congratulations, Mr. Gow.
Thank you very much.
For a heartfelt sentiment. Very nice. Okay. Anyone else wish to address the Elmhurst City Council on any issue of public interest this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll return to the dais. As always, I thank you for coming out and letting us know what was on your mind. Thank you very, very much for the sentiments expressed. I'm sure I speak for Mr. Gow and myself. It's very, very kind of folks to take the time, and we appreciate it very, very much. Okay, we now move on to our consent agenda. We have before us a consent agenda. I need a motion to accept the contents of the consent agenda in its entirety. Alderman Regan moves. Alderman Gutenkopf seconds. Does anybody have any item they'd like to remove from this evening's consent agenda? Alderman Gutenkopf?
Item M.
M. Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion to accept the contents of the consent agenda minus item M as in Michael. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I'd like to ask the Clerk Spencer to please note for the record that was unanimous, as indeed it must be by state statute. I now need a motion to approve the contents of the consent agenda minus item M. Alderman Gow moves. I'm going to try to get people into the record here who aren't going to be here in the future. Alderman Lubnicki seconds. I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Gow.
Aye.
Lomnicki.
Aye.
Regan.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Tipskin.
Aye.
Moriarty.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Sapaniak.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. That motion carries. Consent agenda minus item N is approved. And now, as always, we circle back to the removed items. One this evening is M. It is a committee report out of Public Affairs and Safety Committee. I would ask the clerk to please read the recommendation paragraph.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee that staff move forward with obtaining approval for the relocation of the Prairie Path crossing to Prairie Path Lane, and upon approval and completion of the relocation, the installation of 4-way stop signs at the intersection of Berkeley and Prairie Path Lane. Respectfully submitted, Public Affairs and Safety Committee, signed by Mark A. Mulliner, Chairman, unsigned by Michael Bram, Vice Chairman, and signed by Chris Nybo.
Okay. Before we even get the motion in play, I just want to make sure, Mr. Bram, did you want to sign this or not sign this?
I did not.
Okay, very good. Then I look to Mr. Mulliner for a motion, sir.
I move acceptance of the report as presented.
Okay, and a second, Mr. Nybo seconds. We'll come back to Mr. Mulliner. You can put us in the loop, and then we'll figure out what the issue is.
This was a request brought forward by the alderman in the 5th Ward, and basically what it was there was a request for a stop sign at a particular corner, and after doing a great deal of research on this and looking into some different options, one of the things that came up was that the existing corner, as it sat, did not meet the warrants for a stop sign. However, in looking at the corner and the fact that the Prairie Path was in that same area, there's been some concerns about people crossing the Prairie Path, not only at that street, but at Spring Road and at Poplar as well. And staff came up with a creative idea of moving the Prairie Path to where it would actually have a stop sign that was at the same point as the Prairie Path, so you'd actually cross with a stop sign. And by doing that, that would make it so that we believe that it will meet the warrants to put in the stop sign at that intersection. So we requested that this move forward as it stands.
Okay, very good. Alderman Gutenkopf, you remove this. Your question, comment, or issue?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. First, I'd like to know if you've had the opportunity to begin the discussions with the county and the Park District yet about how this intersection might get reconfigured.
Mr. Mullin?
I know the city manager has been in discussions with the Park District already. This is a process that, of course, will have to go through the Park District as well as the county. The county will be more of a formality of just signing off on it because the Park District actually maintains that piece of the area. And I know there's been initial discussions staff to staff.
My next question is, would we then follow up with all of the other street crossings with the Prairie Path? It seems to me that there are quite a few of those.
Yeah, actually, the plan would be that if this was to move forward, the idea would be to do Berkeley, Spring Road, and Poplar. York Road would not change. It currently has a flashing light at that intersection, and there's no traffic control other than the flashing light at York Road. But those are the other three crossings that are in Elmhurst where we actually cross the street. Those would also be moved to the corner next to the stoplight. And the path would actually sway off to the corner so that there would actually be traffic control where they're crossing.
So you envision that the path would just sort of angle down to the corner, cross at the corner, and then sort of angle back up again?
It won't be a sharp turn except for at Poplar. Poplar is the only spot that we have to do a sharp turn because of the fact that there's trees there, but the other ones, there's no sharp turn, so they're able to smoothly move the path over. They've got some conceptual drawings of it that the city manager and Pete Pyatt has put together just to kind of show an idea of what it would look like. And it would be a smooth transition over to the corner, and then there would be a cross there with a barrier put where the existing one is so people wouldn't continue to cross at that point.
Have discussions been initiated with the bicycle task force about how bicyclists might use the path, and have they come out and supported these reconfigurations?
Yes, my understanding is Mr. Borchard has had a conversation with them. He can respond to that, but I believe that he has had a conversation with them.
Mr. Borchard?
Yes, and the chairman is in full support. I don't believe the chairman was actually asking that the task force be opining on the issue, but they were generally in support of it and appreciative of the opportunity for the bike crossing to have the stop sign for a clear right-of-way for the folks that are on the east-west crossing of the Prairie Path. And to reiterate, the Park District has been notified, the park staff is in a support position and are coordinating with the county. I understand there's a meeting later this week with the county. We anticipate that this will be something supported and appreciated by all those involved.
And then I have one final question.
Sure.
I'd like to know why Alderman Bram has declined to sign the report.
Well, that's a question, Alderman Bram, and he can either tell you or not, his leisure. Sir, would you care to tell us?
Sure. In regards to the rationale behind myself not signing the report, I do agree with the actual final recommendation. The reason why I didn't sign the report was actually the contents of the report. There was some irrelevant information that during discussion in committee, it was discussed of not having it in there. It was revised afterwards, and therefore I didn't feel it was appropriate, and I did not sign the report. The recommendation I am in favor of, I think that by moving the Prairie Path, even though we don't have the actual counts, in theory and engineering judgment, this would warrant a four-way stop. So I am in favor of the recommendation. It is just the specifics of the report that the last paragraph on the first page being irrelevant to the actual recommendation, and therefore I did not sign.
All right, very good. Does anyone have any other questions or comments on this issue? Anyone at all?
I follow up?
Oh, yes? Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I suppose this is more of a question for Alderman Bram, because I think it's, an important thing, and since you're in favor of the recommendations, if we remove the irrelevant paragraph, perhaps you'd be willing to sign the report?
As a committee chairman, two of our committees signed this report, and it stands as it is.
Okay. All right, very good. Seeing no other question or comment, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll on the motion before us, which is to adopt a committee report out of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee relative to the Prairie Path.
Muliner.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Regan.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Bram.
No.
Rose.
Aye.
Gow.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Moriarty.
Aye.
Sapaniak.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Lomnicki.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays.
13 ayes, 1 nays, that motion carries. Okay, very good. That's somebody's BlackBerry is near the mic, so if you can try to get it to the back of your chair or something, that would help. Very good. We now move on to item 5 on our agenda this evening. This is committee reports. We do have a committee report tonight. It's 5A. This is comes out of the Development Planning and Zoning Committee. I would ask the city clerk to please read the recommendation paragraph thereof, and then I'll look to Alderman Rose for a motion.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Development Planning and Zoning Committee to recommend approval of the comprehensive plan. The city attorney is hereby directed to prepare the necessary documents for city council approval. Respectfully submitted, Development Planning and Zoning Committee. Signed by Susan J. Rose, Chair, Norman Leader, Vice Chair, Diane Gutenkopf, Alderman, 1st Ward.
Okay, very good. Alderman Rose, your committee, looking for a motion.
I move acceptance of the recommendation of the report as read.
Okay, and a second from Alderman Leader. Very good. Alderman Rose, back to you. Please, I know this represents a lot of work, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to bring us up to speed on it.
Thank you. I'm really very pleased to bring this before the council. This does represent a significant amount of work. It represents almost 3 years of community meetings, meetings of Development Planning and Zoning Committee, meetings with our consultants. I would like to take a backward step and try to explain to people why the comprehensive plan is so important. We have not really had a comprehensive plan for an update in our current comprehensive plan for almost 20 years, and that's pretty much standard. You do not go ahead and, after all this work, change the comprehensive plan as a whole willy-nilly every couple years. This is a huge undertaking. What is the purpose of the comprehensive plan? It really is to provide a vision of where we see this community going in terms of our development, it's more than just development, that's why it's with our committee, but it really is kind of broadly based in terms of the economics, design, where we as a community really see ourselves going in the next 20 years. As a result of that, I think what's really important for folks to understand is that we spent significant amount of time in this comprehensive plan trying to get public input. We're developing a vision of where we want to go or who we want to be in the next 20 years. I think it's really important that we get as many people in this community as possible to give us their ideas about that. The thing I like about this comprehensive plan more than anything else is that I don't agree with everything, and I think that's what makes it a really good comprehensive plan, and I think that's what makes me have a tremendous amount of faith in this process, that we had over 30 different public meetings with hundreds of people who really attended and gave their views, so that if any one person says, I like everything in this, I think there's something wrong with the plan, because it really needs to reflect the diversity and the complexity of thinking in this community, and I think that is what it does. It was not these public meetings were heavily advertised. I want to really give kudos to John Sed, who really did a lot of work organizing these meetings, did a lot of work really he attended 99% of them, I suspect, and these are very important to the development of the comprehensive plan. Phil Hanegraaff is here, who is our consultant for this. Mr. Hanegraaff has really worked with us on several projects, and I think this community has some confidence in his ability to really develop a comprehensive plan without an agenda, to really look towards what folks in this community want. We used a lot of new technology to solicit viewpoints from everyone. We used email blasts. We also had an open section on the city website where people could comment on the plan. And that's been up really for several years now, so that folks, I want to make sure that I'm correct on that. Since late 2006, that open line, it's like an open mic, has been there for people to say, this is what I think about it, or this is what I don't like about that. And we've had numbers of comments upon that. The plan itself has been available on the website, so folks can comment on that. So I think you can have some confidence that as much as possible, the city, the development organization, our consultant has really attempted to seek public input. This is not a top-down process. This has been a bottom-up process. As a result of that, I think it does reflect, and I just want to take a few minutes to talk about what some of the visioning is that's inherent in this particular document. It's very clear that one of the ways that we've developed this unified vision is really this notion of collaborative governance. That's very important for Elmhurst to move forward. The City Council, the Zoning Commission, our development department does not move forward in and of itself. It's very clear that as we move this city into the next 20 years, we've got to work with other governing bodies, and that's something that we prize and something that we will continue to do. Another section of this vision is really this notion of quality design. I think that there's a strong sense that we want to invest in quality design, quality materials in this town. That's what we're looking for. All public-private partnerships, all private homes. Those are all the things that what we want to encourage is strong design, quality materials. That is how we see ourselves as a community. Economically competitive. It is very important in the next 20 years that Elmhurst remain economically competitive. We do that by offering what we have, which are modern business parks. And it's very clear, this comprehensive plan, I would really call your attention, those of you who have a sleepless night and want to spend a lot of time with this little document, can look at one of the ongoing messages here is if we want to be economically viable, we've got to be able to offer parking for this community. Parking is not, that is not to say that we are interested just in supporting automobile traffic. That is not the case. In fact, one of the points is that we encourage the development of complete sidewalk network and bike lanes. So we want to encourage that, but you would be absolutely foolish to think that we could have a downtown without adequate parking. We simply cannot have that. And this comprehensive plan says that's one of the ways that we see ourselves being economically competitive. A vision of where Elmhurst should be in the next 20 years is our continuing to have adequate access to public transportation, to improving that. We sit on one of the biggest commuter lines in the Chicago area. It's extremely important for us to acknowledge that that is central to the development of this community. So it's not just that, however, but it's also developing public transportation throughout the city. Quality community facilities and services, that's something we know that we want. And last but not least, this notion of strong community neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods are strong partially because of the infrastructure, the amount of money that we spend on our infrastructure. This is not wasted money. This is what the citizens of Elmhurst want. This is what they expect. This is what, in the next 20 years, we need to deliver to them, which is to keep our infrastructure strong so that we continue to have people wanting to move into this community, caring about their property, keeping their property up, people wanting to build new homes in this community. That's the vision of where Elmhurst should be in the next 20 years. We have some things that we may or may not agree with in terms of how we get there, but that is our vision of where we should go. And the last thing I want to say, why is a comprehensive plan so important? It's not just important for some kind of la-la vision, you know, if you see it, you can make it happen. The comprehensive plan actually holds a unique place in our planning process in the city. Our zoning laws actually say one of the things as we begin to consider variances, as we begin to consider public-private partnerships, that there's one little caveat always that sticks in there that says it cannot be contradictory to the aims of the comprehensive plan. That does not mean that how we envision Elmhurst today in 2009, let's put ourselves forward 20 years, in 2029. We don't know what technology is out there. We don't know what the future will bring us. We don't want to say we only want to do what we did in, what we thought about in 2009. Not in terms of technology, but we want to hold to the vision, and I think the vision is broad enough to encompass technology. So what we want is, when we consider zoning issues in the future, we want to make sure that those variances, those projects that we have are not incompatible with the vision that all the residents of Elmhurst have expressed in the last 3 years to say where they want to go. So I encourage us to support this plan. This is a remarkable document. I applaud our city staff and I applaud our consultant for this, and I urge you to vote for this.
Okay, very good. Any questions of Alderman Rose or her committee? Mr. Gao.
More comments and praise than questions. I mean, they did everything that I can think was needed in terms of involvement of citizens, having open forums, taking in input, and just by every manner possible getting people to participate in this. It's their city, it's our city, so this comprehensive plan was approached comprehensively, and I like the sustainability section, all kinds of things that are good about this, that are keeping in step with what's happening now and in such a way that we're better protected in the future. So I think it's an excellent plan, and I think so many ought to have kudos, but also the commission and the committee did an excellent job on that.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Questions or comments? Anyone? Okay, well, very good. I'd ask the clerk then to call the roll on the motion before us, which is the committee report relevant to the comprehensive plan.
Rose.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Regan.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Gao.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Moriarty.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Sapaniak.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Lomnicki.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, that motion carries. Okay, after the fact, I will comment that, like Alderman Rose, I want to congratulate Mr. Borchert, John Sett, and Mr. Hanegraaff for a job really, really well done. I think that the report, the comprehensive plan is adopted, is going to prove that it's the blueprint going forward, and it's kind of the message that you as elected officials leave behind for future elected officials. It's what I refer to as cooler heads at cooler times. Sometimes in the debates here at Elmhurst City Hall over recent years, where folks were coming up with all kinds of ideas of how they wanted different things to go, you may have heard me say that statement, cooler heads at cooler times, meaning without an actual project in front of us, taking input from as wide a spectrum of Elmhurst citizens as we could, and integrating that in an orderly fashion onto a map and a plan. This is cooler heads at cooler times, and the will of the community is expressed here. I have spent a long time, last 16 years, using the comprehensive plan that I found on the shelf when I arrived here, that I had nothing to do with creating or writing or et cetera. That's what I found. I used that as my roadmap, and I tried to execute that plan to the best of my ability. Similarly, by the way, as an aside, as a personal note, I'll tell you that I had next to nothing to do with this one. Mr. Hanegraaff and I met once on it. I think he came in to ask me what I wanted, and it turned into a briefing. He told me where they were at. It's not for the mayor to sit in his office and write the comprehensive plan. It's for the community to write the comprehensive plan, and then it's for the mayor and the council to execute it. That's the way it's supposed to work, and that's the way it has worked. And I think that I did spend a little time perusing it in the last week. It's an excellent document. It's professionally done. It's a nice piece of work, and it's going to serve the community well over the coming years. So, Mr. Hanegraaff, thank you very much for your time. You're welcome. Okay, very good. We now move on to reports and recommendations from appointed and elected officials. Anyone on the dais? Got a report or Mr. Regan?
I have two recommendations, if
Yes,
I may, and these be directed towards the city manager. I think that's why we still have standing to make these recommendations.
You do.
A couple of things. One is more, recent, and then one's been long-standing. In light of the fact that there's a change on this, not in light, but there's a change on this dais in large part because there was an election, and I can't tell you how many people have commented to me, and I to myself, that perhaps I'd like to see sent to the appropriate committee for analyzing the possibility of limiting the size of these political signs. I think it gets to be, my own opinion, perhaps an unnecessary expenditure of money, and it's just unsightly. And this is kind of a universal comment that I get from a number of people. So if we could have that sent to the appropriate committee for consideration, I'd appreciate that. Secondly, one that has been festering for a while that I don't think we've seen a resolution to, and that's zone parking. If you go to certain parts of downtown, you park somewhere and it says you're in zone whatever, A, B, C. People get zone parking tickets, but there's no way for the average parker to figure out what zone they're in. I understand that we need to regulate the parking downtown, but I think it needs to be fair, and I think it needs to be, understandable. So if I park in front of something that says Zone A, and then I go home and I come back and I park two parking spaces over, 2 hours later, I'm still violating the law. So I think we need some clarity on that, whether or not we're doing more harm than good. So if I could ask you, Mr. Borchert, or ask the chair to direct Mr. Borchert to put those to the appropriate committees, and then you still know how to get a hold of me. I'd be interested in knowing when they go to committee. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Any reports or recommendations? I have a very short report tonight. I really wasn't going to have any report tonight. And sometimes folks said I talk too much about this Suburban O'Hare Commission thing. But I want something to share with you. I had a citizen ask me over the weekend about the Suburban O'Hare Commission and our status in it, and isn't it true that the runways don't point at us anymore? This is a commonly held belief, and I wanted to take the opportunity tonight to dispel it. Anybody who lives in north central or northeast or central west part of Elmhurst, Portillo's, and then up towards Barron's Park, and as that line goes forward, knows that no, in point of fact, they still use that runway. Alderman Bram is shaking his head yes. In your ward, folks, no. When the planes are landing, coming in over Portillo's, they're headed for runway 4 right. 4 right is a rather long piece of cement. On the other end of that runway is another set of numbers. It's called 22 left. That's what that runway is called when the planes are coming this way. This morning I had to go to a meeting. I referred to it already, the Vanek event up in Des Plaines. Went over here like we always do on North Avenue, got on the Tri-State Tollway North, and immediately I saw an airplane that was coming off of runway 22 left. That's the one that's 4 right in reverse. And he was doing what they always do, turning south to try to catch the Tri-State Tollway as his noise buffer. They try to fly down the tollway as they're climbing out. My point is that just beyond him, I saw 2 other planes taking off in a parallel motion from one runway 27 right, which is the 27 left. It's always been 27 left, and 27 center, which used to be the old 27 right, but now there's a 3rd runway to the north. So I thought to myself, well, there you go. That proves it. They are using our runway even when they're running the parallels, and they're not running the 3rd parallel right now. Well, sure enough, as soon as I got up to the Northwest Tollway, a 737 came right over the hood of my car onto runway 27 left. So my point is that at approximately noon today, that airport had 4 runways running, 3 of them in parallel, the one new runway in parallel with the 2 old parallel runways, 27, and the one pointed at Elmhurst was still running. And I thought, well, there you go. I'll take this one last opportunity to say we are not out of the woods yet in terms of noise. I think that the neighbors up in the 3rd Ward, and I see Alderman Gutenkopf, if you live over in the Pick subdivision or in the area there by Plunkett Park. These planes are there in the sky all day long. They haven't gone away. And this gentleman asked me over the weekend, well, is it reduced? And I said, well, you know, I haven't seen the counts. I suppose the people in the neighborhood could tell you whether it's reduced or not. And I haven't heard anybody tell me that they thought it was reduced. So again, for the second meeting in a row, I'm going to put in, not necessarily a word for the Suburban O'Hare Commission. It remains to be seen where that goes. And as you know, I think the sitting aldermen certainly know, we haven't paid any money into that organization now in a number of years. But we are card-carrying members, and we're basically supportive of the mission statement, which is to articulate the needs and the desires of our citizens and our community for not only the ability to watch TV and sleep at night, but to have safer skies overhead and to reduce the pollution to whatever degree that can happen, because that's a very real problem with that airport. So that's the substance of my report. Mr. Borchard, you have item 6B, which is actually a note from Mr. Borchard to the council. This was, should I take this, Mr. Borchard, or should you at this point? Why don't you take it? You signed the memorandum, please.
Just simply said, the city council has gone through a, I think, very exhaustive and complete review of the budget, has approved the budget, has made some changes in the budget, but one item that has come up on a number of occasions was, what about the staff's recommendation to put a charge in for street closures that would be associated with block party permits? It's a modest amount of revenue. We have attempted to provide revenue sources where there was a particular category of the community that was using the service. Presently, the budget provides that there would be a service fee for block closures. However, should the city council, as a majority, wish to not have such a charge, a motion as identified on the report before the council, if made and seconded and approved, would accomplish that, and the city staff going forward would simply remove the revenue from the budget in that regard and offer up reports going forward of anticipated expenditures and anticipated revenues for the next city council. So really, it's a matter for the city council to consider, should it wish.
Okay. Well, since it is on our agenda, the chair would recognize whoever would like to be recognized to make this motion as copied in Mr. Borch's memorandum. Chair is looking at Mr. Stepaniak, but he's pointing somewhere else.
I would so move that this
Mr.
be
Gow?
put forward, yes.
Okay. Would you mind reading that so that the folks looking in could understand
All right,
what the motion
yes.
is?
It's nice to have it in front of me, too.
There you go.
Well,
Just the motion at the bottom.
just the motion. Okay. I move that the city council authorize city staff to issue street closure permits for block parties at no charge, and furthermore authorize staff to refund any street closure permits that have been received to date for the summer of 2009 and forego permit revenue to the 2009-2010 budget.
Okay, very good. That's a motion. I need a second. Alderman Moriarty, seconds? You weren't fast enough there, George. I thought you were going to take a pass on that too. So, okay, discussion. Any discussion? Any? Mr. Stepaniak?
Thank you, Mayor. I will mention this. At the very beginning of the budget process, we had talked in the Finance Committee regarding any revenue-generating items. And we were advised on more than one occasion that there would not be any revenue-generating. In fact, we'd be looking more at the spending side. And then when this came through at the $75 per block party permit fee, I think that basically goes counter to what we had discussed and what the ground rules were. As such, I realize it's not any hard and fast rules. It was just discussion. But I believe that we're talking about $16,500 roughly. And I don't think it's right to basically put this on the backs of the residents who are trying to involve themselves in a community spirit, which basically adds to the community well-being and moves the community forward by pulling people together, neighborhoods together. So I would strongly suggest that this fee be eliminated, and as the budget proceeds during the course of the year, as we have done through the years on many other items, we will make adjustments accordingly where necessary.
Very good. Anyone else? No? Okay, seeing no other discussion, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll on the motion before us.
Gao.
Aye.
Moriarty.
Aye.
Regan.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Bram.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Sapaniak.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Lomnicki.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, that motion carries. Okay, very good. That dispenses with, oh, well, we're still on reports. Mr. Borchard, did you have anything else?
No reports?
Okay. Number 7, other business. Is that a hand up, Alderman Rose, other business?
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I think it's probably an announcement.
All right, shall we try announcements? Alderman Rose, announcements.
Thank you. I just want to announce that we have received some really good news based on an issue that we passed now a month or 6 weeks ago. If you remember, as part of the historic preservation process, we've been really trying to encourage folks to have their more residential properties designated as historic, et cetera. And one of the incentives that we put into play now about 6 weeks or 2 months ago was if your home was designated historic and you spent a significant amount of money doing interior renovations, and that I would like to needlepoint someday the phrase, nobody finds a old kitchen and an old bathroom all that exciting. In many of these old properties, that's exactly what people want to renovate, and it's very expensive to do that. So one of the things that we passed as a city council was that if folks did that, we would be able to freeze their property tax assessment for 8 years. And then the next 4 years, it would gradually come up to where it would be at that point. Really is an incentive for people to spend their money to do that. One of the things that we had to do, however, was to go to the Illinois Historic Preservation Agency and ask for their approval of that as it relates to our historic preservation ordinance. And the good news is that they have approved that. So they have determined that it now meets the requirements for an approved local ordinance, and properties designated pursuant to this ordinance are considered to be eligible historic buildings for the assessment freeze program. So this will freeze their property tax assessment for a period of 8 years. I think this is great news, and the hope is that this will encourage more folks, if they're thinking about applying for designation of their homes as historic, that now we know for sure we will be able, and they want to do some renovation, costly renovation inside, that their property tax assessments will be frozen, and that's wonderful news for us in Elmhurst.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Okay, very good. We now come to item 9 on this evening's agenda, which is recognition of outgoing council members. And Mr. Borchard has a program put together. As you know, in the past, I have done this from the dais from this point myself, and I couldn't figure out how to hand this off to myself. So I asked Mr. Borchard to do the honors this evening, and he has agreed to do so. Mr. Borchard, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is truly a distinct honor and a privilege that I can speak for the city staff and thank the outgoing elected officials. I have always said that it's my hat off to anybody who is willing to step into the ring of public service from the elected perspective, elected official perspective, and come to meeting after meeting and deal with the issues that the city manager and other city staff bring to the city elected officials, and seek advice and counsel and direction, and deal with sometimes very wonderful public and sometimes very, very occasionally unreasonably demanding public, but yet the wonderful public of our Elmhurst community that makes the Elmhurst community the fine place that it is. It is every Monday night in Elmhurst. We've got a tradition of service that everybody here knows well. Is every Monday night, committees working with staff on a multitude of issues, digging out the details, digging out issues, then offering up reports, attempting very hard to issue reports that are received well by your peers on the council so that we can, as we did this evening, offer up a consent agenda of 16, 17 items that are approved and move forward to serve the community at then a following city council meeting. So I'm honored to work with all of the elected officials, as are the lead management staff. We say thanks. I say thanks to all of our outgoing officials. We've got a larger number than normal. One mayor, one treasurer. You can never have more than one at a time. But 5 aldermen. 5 aldermen are moving on, and we say thanks to all 7 of you. We've got a group that has differences in years of service, all at least 4 years of service, and going through 8 and 11 and 12 and up to 16 years of service. That's a lot of meetings, a lot of hours, a lot of time away from family and friends and personal life devoted to the community. And I guess for the broader community, I'm in a position to say thanks to all of you for that, and certainly from the city management team and myself, significant thank you. With that, we'll bring forward our 7, one at a time. Charity Bagoni Algrim is first, with 4 years of service as city treasurer, and we've got some mementos for you and a chair that has the logo of the city of Elmhurst on it, and we'll help you get that to wherever you'd like it delivered later. All of our outgoing officials get such a commemorative lounge chair. We also have for everybody a medallion that goes back to the sesquicentennial days of the city of Elmhurst, with landmarks of the community that illustrate the history of the community from its original foundings to current days, and engraved in the back is the name and the position and the years of service, and as well a Distinguished Service Award plaque in recognition of devoted service to the city with the position and the years of service. And lastly, for each of our officials, a visionary book, the most recent history book of the city of Elmhurst, autographed by the author Virginia Stewart, and with some nearly positive, pleasant remarks from the city staff etched and signed. Charity, can I meet you at your chair?
Whatever you, now would be fine, I think. Fine. But we're going to need, Ms. Borchard, you're going to need to get a microphone to everyone as they sit in their chair and give their thoughts, because otherwise no one will be able to hear them.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say it was always easy to be here serving because you are a leader, and it's easy to follow when you are being led, so thank you very much. And City Manager Mr. Borchert and Marilyn Gaston, it was my pleasure and my honor to serve with you all. Every single resident in the city should recognize what a fine, unbelievable staff we have and how lucky we are to have them. So thank you very much.
We're working from charity to Maura Moriarty, served for 4 years from 2005 to 2009, serving as the 5th Ward Alderman, 4 years of service with 2 different levels of service. First 2 years, she worked with the Public Works and Buildings Committee on a committee of public works issues, and then shifted and served our Finance Committee, Finance, Council Affairs, Administrative Services Committee for 2 years, 4 years of service, and again, with significant passion and commitment every day on the job, doing the job, representing the community at large, and well done. We have the same package of commemorative material for Alderman Moriarty and a chair.
Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you. It's been an honor representing the 5th Ward residents as well as all residents here in Elmhurst. The past 4 years have been a great learning and enriching experience. Elmhurst has so many fine institutions: the hospital, the library, the college, the park district, good schools. But it's not only the institutions that make this a great community, it's the people. When searching for positive solutions to a lot of the residents' issues, I came in contact with many innovative, intelligent, and kind residents. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to all of them for all the wonderful cards, letters, flowers, emails, brownies, all the good things. I have really enjoyed serving you guys and look forward to the future. Thank you.
Thank you, and Alderman Lomnicki has, as has Alderman Moriarty, served with distinction 4 years. All of Alderman Lomnicki's years of service were in the Public Works and Buildings Committee, where she toiled with Mr. Hughes, Director of Public Works, and others in the Public Works operation on the multitude of public works issues, and as all of the City Council outgoing every Monday on the job or with a reason not to be here and doing what's needed and representing the community, her own neighborhood, but the community at large, and working with the City Council as a team. I would say just generally, Elmhurst is a character counts community, and I work with a lot of city managers and village administrators, and none of them, from my perspective, have been blessed with city councils that do exercise character counts as generally and consistently as a standard for not only their peers, but the community at large. It is a community that does a great job of dealing with issues with character and with dignity and trying to do the best for the broader community. Alderman Lomnicki.
Thank you. I don't think I'm quite old enough yet for this rocking chair, but I guess it is a beautiful token, and thank you very much. It's been a privilege and an honor to serve this town. I'm going to get choked up. My family's lived here their whole lives, and it's been a wonderful community to live in, and my children are now grown, and I just appreciate the opportunity that I've had. It's been an honor serving this ward, and I'm going to miss it a little bit, but I've got a business to run and a family to take care of now. They're going to be happy their mom's home. But everyone at the City Hall has been wonderful. The staff has been great. And I've learned a lot. I felt like I went back to college 4 years ago because I didn't need reading glasses until it was time to start reading all the papers we got in every day. So it's been a wonderful experience, and I encourage everyone to get involved, whether you have a little bit of time or a lot of time to give. It makes a difference when you feel like you're part of the process. And I just appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Alderman Michael J. Regan from the First Ward is leaving us after 8 years of dedicated service, 2001 through 2009. And I'm not sure he loved it or couldn't get away from it, but 8 years with the Public Works and Buildings Committee, 3 years as a member of the Public Works and Buildings Committee. I started in the Public Works Department, so I think he loved it. And then 5 years after that with the Public Works and Buildings Committee as the Vice Chairman. 8 years of service, Michael Regan.
What makes you think I would speak?
Past practice.
Thank you. Since I'm in a rocking chair, I brought a book. Seems appropriate. I will take the opportunity, since I have the bully pulpit for a few more minutes anyway, to say a few things. First of all, I want to thank as Alderman Moriarty did, her constituents, my constituents, the residents of the First Ward, who for 8 years have trusted me to be their representatives. It's an honor and a privilege to do so. It's a humbling feeling and also an exhilarating feeling to know that you represent your neighbors, and it's been a very interesting and rewarding experience. I also want to thank everybody who's on the dais. It's kind of awkward since half of them, or most of them, behind us now, but pretend I have a rear view mirror. Not only the current group, it's been fun, but everybody who's served, during the 8 years I was here. Now, I've made the mistake, perhaps, of jotting this down, and I'll tell you why. These are the people I believe that I have served with who are not currently here, and to the extent that I miss somebody, I deeply apologize. Paul Fichtner got me into this mess, so he's at home. Diane McGinnis isn't far behind. She's laughing over there. Jordan, Jan Vanek, Charles Mueller, Ann Tranter, Steve Dubois, Steve Hillsman, Brad Walsh, Mark Tebby, and sitting in the front row here tonight, Jim Parker. I served with Jim Parker for 4 or 6 years. I'm not sure. Not good at math. But I hadn't seen Jim in years, and he's like a new word. I've seen him a half a dozen times in the last 2 weeks. And Jim was an excellent public servant and a great guy, so it's good to see you again. I also want to thank the city staff. It's a great group of people. They're very responsive. I would start, he seems to be getting picked on tonight, but Mike Hughes, I don't know what you did wrong in another life to deserve me for 8 years. The mayor tried to make me the chairman of the finance committee for about a day, and as I told him at the time, Alderman Spaniak was a much better choice. So 8 years, it's been a good experience. Tom Borchard, talk about responsive. A man that takes a lot of flack, I think in many cases needlessly. He is the font of institutional knowledge. He always has the best interest of the city at mind, and I think most importantly, he is one of the nicest people and best human beings I've come across. And if there is a politician in this town, it's him. The rest of the city staff, Marilyn Gaston, John said, the chiefs in the back, Neubauer and Kopp, everybody, they've been great. It's a really, for the citizens watching out there, you should feel proud. You have a great group of people who are running the show here. We're just a bunch of moms and dads and brothers and sisters trying to do our best and part-time. Last but not least, certainly foremost, I'd like to thank my family. My wife Kathleen is here. She's been supportive through the 8 years. 8 years ago, her hard work and her know-how were instrumental to my success. Couldn't have done it without you. We'll forever be appreciative of that. Caitlin, Maggie, and Michael. Caitlin and Maggie are off of college. Michael is back here tonight. They have had constant support for me, even when I decided not to run again, because I too have a job to do and family to raise. They kept saying, no, do it again, run for mayor, do something, and I will always appreciate that support. While I have this, and we're still real early, I'm the warm-up act for the mayor, actually. I want to talk for a minute about public service, and this is my public service moment, but I've told a lot of people this. I really believe in public service. I believe that if you have the aptitude, the inclination, and the time, it's something you should do. And it's above my pay grade, as they say, to make comments on the philosophy of this, but you know, do we have a higher duty to do this because we were born where we are, where we were, when we are? I don't know. But I believe so. I think it's something everybody should do. Alderman leader to my right, generally right across from me, is from time to time is inclined to quote famous people. I have always listened, sometimes with amazement, often with amusement, but always found it interesting. And one of the first people you quote, if I recall, was Archimedes. And I will never be able to do it as well as you. But I want to quote Archimedes in a larger context tonight that comes from this book called An Honorable Profession, which, I hate to say this, I probably violated the law. It was due in the Lake Forest High School library on May 26, 1972. Chief, what's the statute of limitations? But anyway, in this book, could you hold these? Thank you. In this book is a quote from Robert Kennedy, former Senator Kennedy. And somebody, a dear friend of mine, sent me an excerpt of it, so I won't read the whole thing, a few years ago. And I think it's a little pertinent to what we do here. So bear with me. You have no choice. I mean, some believe there is nothing one man or one woman can do against an enormous array of the world's ills, against misery, ignorance, injustice, or violence. Yet many of the world's great movements of thought and action have flowed from the work of one person. A young monk began the Protestant Reformation. A young general extended an empire from Macedonia to the borders of the earth. And a young woman reclaimed the territory of France. It was a young Italian explorer who discovered the New World, and a 32-year-old Thomas Jefferson that proclaimed that all men were created equal. Give me a place to stand, said Archimedes, and I will move the world. He moved the world, and so can we all. Senator Kennedy went on to say, quote, few will have the greatness to bend history itself, but each of us can work to change a small portion of events. And in the total of all those acts will be written the history of this generation. What we do here counts. A lot of people don't know what their alderman does or what their mayor does, but what we do here counts. What they do at the Park District, the Library Board, the PTAs, it counts. And it counts in countless ways. It broadens and strengthens the foundation of our town. It enriches the fabric of our community. It counts. And I commend everybody who has ever served, and people who have served and tried again. There is no disgrace in losing. The disgrace is not trying. Because I believe this, and it sounds corny. I also believe that there is a ripple effect to this, and I think it's for our younger generation. 8 years ago, when I thought about running, I listed the pros and cons, and one of the pros was I thought perhaps it would have a positive effect on my children. I think the early results are good. My daughters, Caitlin and Maggie, are freshmen at the University of Illinois in Champaign now. When they were at York High School, my daughter, Caitlin, spent 4 years on the city council, on their version of the city council, what's it called? Student council. Student council. She was the president of her junior class. She was on the executive board her senior year. She also was part of the organization that refounded or revitalized the youth and government program at York. The mayor is fond to tell us of his days at youth and government. And for those of you who remember youth and government, it's when they come from high school to high school and they come down, they form a state legislature. That's a great thing. She's now at the University of Illinois where she's on the Student Senate. My daughter Maggie spent 3 years on the York Student Council, was president of her senior class. She spent many nights in this chamber as a member of the peer jury. She too is at the University of Illinois in Champaign, where she too is on the Senate Student Senate. And in the back row, as I mentioned before, is my son. I don't know where he disappeared to, but probably wholly embarrassed by this, as my wife is. But anyway, he's in the 8th grade at Sandburg. There he is, and timing is everything. And he was just announced last week that he has been selected to be on the York Student Council next year. So you can say this is, oh, Mike, stop patting yourself on the back, but what I really mean by this is what we do here has a positive ripple effect, okay? It's a good thing. And I have told my children, and I mean it, strive to make a positive difference in your life. Okay? Strive to make a positive difference, and that's what we do here. Okay? My advice to the next council is to heed that. Strive to make a positive difference. People talk about schisms or whatever in the council. You know, I think those things are negative and overblown. As long as you do what you think is best for your constituents in your town, we're going to be fine. Okay, so when the issues get hard, the nights get long, and the tempers get short, I would ask them to think about this. Strive to make a positive difference. Now, you're going to see 15 people dip down, or 14 down here, but earlier today I snuck into the chambers, okay, and I put down on the right-hand side where our municipal code is, a smaller version of this. I probably have defaced public property and I have misappropriated the city emblem, but it says, make a positive difference. And maybe somebody can sit down there someday and take a look at that and act reasonably and act forthrightly for the best interests of the town and make a positive difference. I'll close as follows. Once again, I want to thank the citizens of Elmhurst, the residents of the First Ward, and my wife Kathleen and my children Caitlin, Maggie, and Michael for allowing me to come here to try to make a positive difference. And I want to thank everybody who I've ever served with for making a positive difference in my life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman Regan. Well said. Next in line is George Sapaniak. George, unlike anybody else on the City Council going out this year, has served 2 wards, 2 different time frames, served the 6th Ward, south end of town, most recently, and East End, from 2001 through 2009, but prior to that, served the 7th Ward, the south end of town, west, from 1997 to 2000. 2 years as chair of the Public Works and Buildings Committee, 8 years in the Finance, Council Affairs, Administrative Services Committee as a committee person, and then 2 years as the chair of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee. Alderman Sapaniak served the community in those 2 different time frames for parts of 11 years, and as is the case with all of our aldermen, served with distinction and served well. Many issues, all brought forward responsibly and with dedication, and we're proud and pleased and honored to have worked with Alderman Sapaniak. Alderman, if you'd meet me.
Well, I want to say thank you to everybody. I feel like I should stand up and start a coffee here. But I do want to say thank you, and I really do feel, as Alderman Regan said, a privilege and honor to serve on the City Council of Elmhurst. I was fortunate enough, as Tom had mentioned, to be elected back in '97 from the 7th Ward, and then after that to be elected from the 6th Ward twice. So that's a lot of trust and confidence that was shown in me, and I really appreciate it. And during my time, the one thing I always did is I always tried focusing on the issues and expressing my opinions, and sometimes perhaps my opinions ran counter to the majority or whatnot, but the bottom line is in all of this, I believe it's really important that you express an opinion and your heartfelt belief on any issues based on the facts of the situation. And I feel that if you do that with honesty and integrity, whether you win or lose on these debates, you know, it's part of the political process. So you basically overcome it and you move on to the next issue. I've been very fortunate during my 10 years on the Finance Committee to work with Marilyn Gaston and Tom Trezine and others, and you hate to mention names because as you mention names, you forget people, or you maybe should have mentioned someone you didn't. But I think I do have to mention Marilyn and Tom since they were there all the time. And before that, I worked closely with Dennis Stryker and with Mike Hughes. And again, to paraphrase other comments, it's so easy to work up here because of the quality of the staff. With Tom Borchard, his knowledge and experience, and Tom and I have not always agreed on everything, but that's irrelevant. The bottom line is that we're all pulling in the same direction. And the staff is always there. Whenever you have a question, that you get answers very quickly and they're accurate, and it's not surprising that the staff wins awards year after year. We have a lot to be proud of. And also, let me make a comment about the top man back there, Tom Marcucci. Tom and I may not have agreed throughout the years, but I do respect his position. In many respects, he has even enlightened me, and one of the very first things he mentioned to me when I first came on a city council, and I mean this literally, is I was advocating a position, and Tom turned to me and said, you know, you're not going to win every vote out there, you know, implying from the residents, and he's absolutely right. You try to do the right thing, but you're not going to get everybody's vote. But as long as you do what you believe, you can't go wrong. The other thing, I've met a lot of friends through the city council, made a lot of acquaintances in the community at large, and I've been very fortunate to work with the people who were sitting behind me and next to me. We're a team, and at the end of the meeting, everybody talks, chit-chats a little bit, and unwinds, and then goes home. But the bottom line is we're all here for a purpose, and the purpose is to serve the greater community. And I think, as I told Tom Marcucci at the beginning of this meeting, we really did have a very, very good council. And you hate to see it break up, but that's the process of this business. So I feel very fortunate. And I do want to say thank you to all my colleagues behind me for helping me through the years and answering questions and whatnot. And one last comment I'm going to make is, as you may know, I did run for mayor. And Mike Regan called me at home about a week and a half ago and left me probably the most touching message that I've gotten. It was so long and so touching and so heartfelt, I was shocked. And I know it's hard to believe that he talks for a long time. But, I mean, and I thought to myself, I told my wife, I said, I'm blown away. I mean, and that's what it's all about. Mike and I have worked together closely through the years, and when you get a message like that, you remember it for the rest of your life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman Sapaniak. Several of you have mentioned it, and I feel affirmed. I sense that you're nervous with everybody behind you. Welcome to my world. Alderman John Gow has served again with distinction the community, the City Council, and the 4th Ward. My alderman for 12 years, 1997 through today, 2009, and actually everybody's still in office, as you, I know, have been advised, until you're replaced. You're not replaced until we do a swear-in, so in case there's a problem between now and next Monday night, you're still on the job. Alderman Gow, 12 years, a lot of time with the Development Planning and Zoning Committee, 4 years as a member, 6 years as a vice chair, and then the last 2 years serving the Public Works and Buildings Committee. His leadership and oversight well serving the public works issues going forward. 12 years of service to the community. Alderman Gow, thank you.
I have to admit that I used to teach public speaking, and one of the things I like to say to my students was the best way to do it is to stand up, speak up, and shut up. Now I'm in a position where I have to sit down, sit back, and talk. I'll try to hit the spirit of the first comments I made. Back with my teaching. What more can be said? This is just a wonderful experience. And it really reflects also what I've always thought, and I'm just delighted with Mike Regan's talk about his children and getting involved, because I've always thought, the government belongs to you. And to do it and do it well, we ought to be teaching our kids from the beginning, in grade school and so on. You have a responsibility to serve. We have such a rich sweep of talent in this community, and every community for that matter, but I think this in particular. And it's just an honor and a privilege to serve and participate and try to make a difference. And you never do it alone. I mean, I'm just delighted that some things that had something to do with, like when Alderman Rose mentioned the wonderful news that a tax freeze is available, an 8-year tax freeze for those who want to improve their homes, who are participating in historic preservation. And that's wonderful news, and the committee with Susan Rose's leadership, and I had a hand in the whole thing because I first proposed that we have a historic preservation ordinance. So I just feel that everybody should participate, and I feel privileged and pleased to have had the opportunity to do it here in Elmhurst. When I graduated from high school, I got a letter from a friend of my parents, and I got some advice from that person. I've always tried to live up to it. The advice was achieve the honorable, and I hope I've done that.
I know you've heard enough probably from me, but in my comments, I made a drastic omission, and it will be a lead-in to the next person, if I may. When we're talking about the fine city staff and people we served with, it is a terrible error of omission that I didn't talk about the mayor. About 2 years ago, in one of our parades that we like to have, I think this one's still in the budget, the Memorial Day parade. We were about at the corner of York and Schiller, or York and something. Anyway, it wasn't Schiller, it'd be a long parade. But anyway, so somebody yells out of the crowd, "Hey, Mayor, You're the greatest mayor in America. Notwithstanding the fact he was a family member of Marcucci's. I got to thinking that, you know what, I'm not sure if that is or isn't true, but if there are better mayors, those towns are very fortunate. You know, I want to say that a high tide raises all boats. And the tide has raised exponentially, or been raised exponentially on this gentleman's watch. And it's been an honor to serve with him. And he's got some big shoes, somebody has some big shoes to fill.
Well, thanks, Alderman. Now I...
Amen. Amen.
Well said, Alderman Regan. Thank you very much. And would agree and would second that notion or motion. Not necessarily the best for last or the oldest for last, but specifically the longest tenure of those that are leaving is last. 16 years of service as the top elected official in the community. And in that regard, truly where the buck stops. The buck stops at the mayor's office, the mayor's desk, and Mayor Marcucci didn't duck that responsibility ever for a moment. Took on all of the duties and responsibilities, was here nearly without an exception for 16 years. The longest tenure of any elected mayor in the city of Elmhurst. Two mayors did 12 years, but nobody's done 16. 16 years is an extremely long time. While he served the Elmhurst community, he represented the Elmhurst community in many places beyond the limits of the city, and I was there a lot with the mayor and would report to the council frequently, and will tonight, and to the community assembled tonight, that Mayor Marcucci represented us all extremely well in many places. Just to name a few: the Suburban O'Hare Commission, the Suburban Bus System Board, PACE. He still serves on the DuPage County Stormwater Committee. He was a member of the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference at the Northeastern Illinois Planning Commission. He was representing the district at the DuPage Water Commission, the district that Elmhurst serves. Just to name a few. I think it is true that the day Mayor Marcucci won election was maybe the second best day of my life. The first best was the day I married my wife. Second best day is when he got elected mayor, because it's been a great 16 years of service with a mayor, and also a friendship that has formed. Mayor Marcucci has frankly helped beyond what normally is the duty and responsibility of the mayor. He has helped, in my opinion, and helped well School District 205, Timothy Christian Private School, Emmanuel Lutheran Grammar School, Immaculate Conception, Visitation, the private schools, the library, and has done a lot of very, very good things for the community, starting with the North Avenue project and leading through. I think his expertise is particularly evident with the economic development initiatives that have emanated from the Central Business District through Lake and Walnut, the relocation of the city garage. I'll never forget the day I brought him around to the city garage the first day, and he goes, "Mr. Borchert, with all due respect, come over here." And he drags me literally to the top of the rock pile and says, "Don't you get it? That's Route 83. It's like, yeah, I know that's Route 83. I'm thinking this is going to be a long 4 years. He says, "That's frontage. That's frontage." And I finally figured it out, and I said, "Well, if you're game, I'm game, but this is going to be a long road." It has worked out well, I think, for the community, and just one of the many examples of how Mayor Marcucci has served Elmhurst. We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much from the staff, from the community. Mayor Marcucci, 16 years of service. You'll be missed, and your rocking chair awaits.
give me the microphone. He said he wasn't sure he wanted to give me the mic. Well, I'll tell you, it's quite an evening for me. It's the bookend to a similar evening here 16 years ago when we started. I didn't know what I was doing. I think that was pretty much evident to everybody in the room. But I threw myself into it, and it worked out. I have a couple of comments. First of all, for the folks who are retiring tonight, for the folks looking in, take from this as just a little slice of the spectrum of the quality of the public servants that you have in this community. These are all great people. They're all different. Every one of their talks was a little different. They all came at it at a slightly different perspective. And that's the way it's supposed to work, you know? You come together in this building every Monday night and you try to work things out, and you're supposed to bring your own personal perspective. People laugh in my face when I say this, I'm a Kaiser roll salesman. That's what I do for a living. I'm a bread salesman. No more. That's what I do. George is a lawyer and an accountant. You know, John was a school teacher. Moore works at a bank. I'm going to leave somebody out here. You run a private business. And we come together and we just try to make it happen. So that's the first thing I wanted to say, was that it's an interesting process. What I enjoy about this, somebody alluded to my high school student council experience. I've been a victim of this need to do this since I was a kid. I love the interaction. I love the challenge. I love the debate. A finely crafted debate, to me, is just a splendid thing. And it really doesn't matter so much in the end whether I win or lose. I've had people change my mind right up there on that dais. And rather than going home mad or upset about it, it's an eloquent, wonderful thing. It's almost like a version of deja vu. You get that little tickle in your mind and you go, yeah, they're right. And now I know why they're right. So that's what I always loved about it. I think that, John, probably in your school, in your profession, you taught debate or understood the concept of debate. It works better when people are fair. One of the things, somebody said to me about John Gow once, well, he's kind of a thorn in your side, isn't he? He doesn't agree with you very much. And I said, no, here's the thing about John Gow. John Gow fights fair. Always fought fair. He was honest with you. He told you what was on his mind. He never bushwhacked you. And it was a fair and honest debate, which is, by the way, what the citizens of Elmhurst paid him to do when he came here. The job isn't to go to City Hall and agree with the mayor or the city manager. The job is to go to City Hall and try to do the best you can. And that's all I've tried to do. You know, when I was running for office and I knocked on the door of one guy, kind of got in my face, and he said, basically the gist of it was, what makes you think you can be mayor? How are you qualified? And it boiled down to, look, I've lived in town all my life. I think I know what the town is about. I think I know what we've been trying to accomplish here over the past years. I have the time, and I have the inclination, and I'm willing to devote my best efforts, my meager talents, such as they are, to the job. That's it. I didn't tell him I was the hardest working guy in town. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not. I'm certainly not the smartest guy in town. That's a given. But, a little bit, work a little bit every day, and work with the people around this dais that the Elmhurst citizens gave to me to work with, and we were able, quite frankly, to accomplish some really, really wonderful things. Now, I know this ground has been plowed before, but I got to say it. Early on here, I discovered two things that were both a kind of a surprise to me. One is that public servants, people who work for government, are not bums. Now, what do I mean by that? I came off the sidewalk like a lot of citizens, full of angst about all those people who work for the government. They're just there to get their pension. They're just going through the motions. They don't really care. They work for the government, after all. If they were really quality people, they wouldn't work for the government. Now, I say that publicly tonight from this microphone as a cathartic effort to take the blame for such a really ignorant and terrible feeling. But day after day, from day one, the people of Elmhurst need to know that the public servants that work in this building And behind the trucks of the snowplows, behind the wheels of the snowplows, and in the ditches, like that story I told a couple of weeks ago about the Christmas Eve water main break, where the guys come out from their home on Christmas Eve because they're on call and don't complain and do the. We have wonderful, wonderful public servants working in this community. And every day when people saw me at my church, at the grocery store, raking my yard, whatever it was, they said, Mayor, you're doing a great job. I took it. If I had the opportunity, I said back to them, thank you very much on behalf of the people who staff City Hall and the rank and file of the people who work for the city. And I took every chance I could to make sure that those people knew that I appreciated their efforts. They never, in 16 years, they never let me down, and I was always proud to be associated with them. First and foremost, Mr. Borchert. He is an up-from-the-ranks guy. He has spent his entire career working for Elmhurst. He is not only, if the people of Elmhurst don't know it, I'll tell you, he's the best city manager in the state of Illinois, if not the country today. He is hardworking to a fault. He is one of the most ethical people I've ever met in my life. This is a great man. And he surrounds, the real cherry on top of all that is he surrounds himself with competent people. He does not surround himself with yes men. He surrounds himself with people who challenge him, who talk to him, who work with him, not for him. And together and collectively, they are the people who have moved this community forward over the last 16 years. I will say, the little shifting gears here, it has been an immense honor. I want to thank my wife and my children for putting up with my absence for 60. Maybe it was a blessing to them that I was out of the house that much. I don't know. Like Alderman Regan alluded to, this is a big decision. I could not have done this without the support of my wife and my children. These kinds of decisions affect them. When you're going to be the mayor of the community, you have kids in the school system, that affects them. So you need to think about that. And my children and my wife were unwavering in their support of this endeavor because they knew it was important to me. Like I said, this is an affliction that I have. It's what I do. Quite frankly, I loved the job. I really did. I threw myself into it the best I could with all my energy because I could, because I was allowed to on the home front, and my employer gave me a lot of leeway too, and I thank them for that. But in the end, it just, 16 years, it got to be time. There was a movement in our community a number of years ago for term limits. I don't like term limits. I think they're unconstitutional. I think they run against the fabric of a free democracy to elect whoever we want to be elected. But there was a time limit for me, and for me, 16 years was just, it was enough. It was time to move on. I would meet the mayors around who'd been mayor of their, I don't know if it would have happened. Who knows? I might have got thrown out of office this last time. But my point was going to be, when I would meet a mayor who said he was in office for 30 years or 32 years or 34 years or something like that, that just didn't settle right with me. I'm not saying it was wrong. I think that our democracy calls for new blood, for regeneration. And we're going to get that now with a new council and a new mayor, and it's going to be really fine. We're going to have a wonderful. This was a great town long before I came along. It's going to be a great town long after I leave this building. So it's been a wonderful experience. It was the honor of my life to be elected mayor of the town I grew up in. And as I said more than once, George and Flavia Marcucci raised 4 boys, and we tried to raise as much cane as we could. Growing up in Brithaven and going to IC grade school, and my brothers all went to Fenwick, I went to York, and apparently I got through it with a record that allowed this to happen, or at least people didn't read the police reports that close. One of the two, I don't know. And unfortunately my parents, my father passed away about 6 weeks before I decided to do this, so they never saw this, which is really unfortunate, but hopefully my children will tell the story. So thank you very much to the citizens of Elmhurst who gave me this opportunity. I enjoyed the work tremendously. I hope I did the best. The other thing I got to say is I did the best I could. Some people aren't happy with everything that happened here. I did the best I could for everybody. One of the things that when you get sworn in as mayor, unlike an alderman, you don't represent your neighborhood, you don't represent your block or your church or your business. You take an oath, and I took that oath, dropped that seriously, to represent everybody in this community from Roosevelt Road to Grand Avenue, from the interstate to the Pick subdivision, everybody. And every decision I made was made with that in mind. And I would just kind of leave that thought in the room, that you're better off always taking the big picture, stand back. And I never worried about the next election. Quite frankly, the next election be damned. As I said with that interview the other day with Ken Bartels, it's not about getting, it's not supposed to, if you got an elect, this is the problem with, this is why we don't like elected officials all the time, because they're worried about getting reelected. We're kind of schizophrenic that way. We want them to do what we want, but we want them to do the right thing. And I always said I'd be more than happy to be thrown out of office doing something that I believed was right for the citizens of Elmhurst. And that was the way I was going to conduct myself, and I did. I did the best I could according to the moral compass that my parents gave me, and I hope it turned out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Marcucci, and thank you, Treasurer, Alderman, and Mayor Marcucci. I believe you did individually make a difference and collectively make a huge difference for the community. Elmhurst is better off today than we were before, and better off with your service. I guess, can somebody give the clerk a motion to adjourn? Or is there information, anybody from the dais? The dais?
We need someone, I suspect people would like to say something.
Yeah.
So.
I did want to say something.
Oh, I thought you were going to motion to adjourn.
No. No, I'm not going to let you get out of here before I say something.
Stay in your chair here, we'll bring you.
All right, fine.
Yeah, so you're back in charge.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Regan, you used the term a bully pulpit. Of course, that's Teddy Roosevelt's famous phrase, and I just happen to have a quote from Teddy tonight. What are the chances?
Who knew?
And what he said, quote, "The first requisite of a good citizen in this republic is that he or she shall be able and willing to pull their own weight," unquote. And I know Teddy would have been proud of all of you. And from Teddy, I'll say bully to all of you. And I wanted to just make a brief quote on each of you. To you, Mike, you wield the truth like a flaming sword. And you are the most lethal debater I ever saw in action. So I say farewell. To John Gow, you are the balance wheel and the conscience of our council. Farewell. To George Sapaniak, a man of the most sterling courage, integrity, and character, farewell. To Maura Moriarty, I will miss your charming smile and your kind heart and your strong, probing questions. Farewell. To Donna Lomnicki, who always voted from the dictates of her conscience and her own mind, farewell. To Charity Pagoni, who served silently as mandated, but nevertheless served our city superbly, farewell. And finally, to Mayor Marcucci, and I say this from the absolute bottom of my heart, it has been the greatest honor, and I want to underline that, the greatest honor of my life to serve with you, under you, on this council for the last 4 years. We all owe you an unredeemable debt, every one of us and every one of us in this town. You're like the mythic horseman of the Old West who rights the wrongs, punishes the evildoers, and rides off into the sunset. And we will not see your light again in our lifetime. So I say thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you.
Well, very good. I think the chair would recognize a motion to adjourn. No?
No.
Do we have some more of this? Mr. Moreland?
I'll defer to Alderman Rose.
Will you?
I know she has some comments to say, but I'd like to say something after that, so I'll quell any.
Okay. Then I will take my time.
Recognize Alderman Rose.
Thank you. I'll take my time at the bully pulpit itself. First thing I would like to do is to thank each and every one of you. As I thought about tonight, I thought there is not one person sitting in a rocking chair here that I have not disagreed with at one time or another. Not one. Every single one of them I have disagreed with. But I will say this, that I would like to thank each and every one of them, because I know that every single person here served for the best of motives. When people say to me that, oh, they're just politicians, or there's something evil in Denmark, I always say, these people who serve on this city council serve because they want to serve their community. Maura, Mike, John, George, Donna, Charity, and the mayor have all served for that reason. I don't think, unless you do this, you don't really understand what it means every Monday night. That it's so simple to say that every Monday night, but it is every Monday night. You don't really realize what the sacrifice that is, how many tuna fish sandwiches you have for dinner, how many hours you don't spend with your kids, how many hours you don't spend with your spouse on the couch watching TV, just being a normal family, how many nights away from some special events, how you organize your life around the Elmhurst City Council and your obligation and your duty. And every single person here did that with a willing heart. It's really difficult for people to understand what that means, that you organized your vacations around that, you tried to organize your business travel around that. And that is a huge sacrifice for this community, but I will tell you, I know that every single person here did it with gladness in their heart, and because they wanted to do it and they wanted to serve this community, and I thank each and every one of them for that. I do want to single out two people because I think they have meant a lot to me in my time as a council member. The first is Mike Regan. I don't necessarily see him on a horse with a sword. I like the analogy, but I've never seen him that way. I just would say I think Mike Regan is probably the most clear-headed alderman I have ever served with. I think that he was always able to bring clarity to some issue. There was always some analogy that it was the clear white light that I would say, oh yeah, I understand what that is. And that I just have always enjoyed Mike Regan's absolutely wicked sense of humor that he displayed up here on the dais and in committee meetings. He really was, I'm really privileged to serve with him. We say that so easily, but really I am. And my one hope and desire is that Mike Regan is not done with public life, because I think Mike Regan does make a difference in this community, and I in particular, I wanted to thank him. And then I want to make a few comments about Tom Marcucci, and I'll try to do it without breaking up myself, since Tom Marcucci has been really a very important figure to this community and to me personally. The one thing I will say about Tom Marcucci that I have learned in the 18 years that I've known him, the 16 years that I've known him, is that Tom has always had the best of Elmhurst in his heart, that I have never wavered with that idea that he would do something for any other reason. That has been the push behind what he has done. Tom is a wonderful speaker now. You heard it tonight. I remember the days when Tom was not a wonderful speaker. I remember his very first speech. He talks about North Avenue. I was there, my husband was there, and I thought, who the heck is this guy? And he fumbled his way along, but he had truth in what he had to say. Tom is now, some people have described Tom, if you ask him what time it is, he'll tell you how to make a watch. Very true. And he was not always the silver-tongued devil that he is now. But I think Tom has grown in this position, and it's the love of Elmhurst that he has. And the one thing that I will say about Tom is that he never took all the glory on himself. Tom deserved lots and does deserve lots and lots of praise for what he's done to this community. But if you know Tom Marcucci, he's always said, it takes a good city council. It's the people around me that do that. He's always been incredibly fair. Sometimes when we may not have deserved it, but I think that is something about Tom Marcucci that is sterling. It's not always been about me, Tom. I think he has risen to where he is because people have recognized that about him. And the last thing, the beauty of that is that Tom is an example of the kind of public servant that I've always wanted to be. I wrote him a Christmas card a couple years ago to tell him that. And I never knew Tom personally before this, but I will tell you, he is a model for public service in this community. And if I could do half as good as Tom Marcucci, if we could, I think that we would be doing great. And I want to thank him personally for all his years in Mimi and his kids, because I just think this town will, in years to come, really benefit from many of the things that he's done. I want to thank you, Tom, very much.
Move around. In the essence of time, I'll compress. My comments were compressed already, and Alderman Rose already said a lot of them. So, but in the essence of time, I will say I want to thank everybody for their hard work and their contribution. And I'll truly miss all of you. I've only been on the council for 2 years, but I feel like I've learned almost a lifetime of lessons. To Charity, Donna, Alderman Gow, Mike Regan, and Maura, I'll miss all of you, and each one of you has contributed to my ability to help serve, and I want to thank you for that. But as I said, in the essence of time, I will compress comments I have written on all of them and make a point to contact each one of them individually and let them know what they've meant to me. But I did want to single out 2 people, and I think it's important to do so. The first would be George Sapaniak. And before I ran, I didn't even know who George was. And I came to quickly find out that he was the alderman in the 6th Ward where I resided. And George is a unique individual. His leadership and I was fortunate enough to serve with George on the Finance Committee. Very fortunate. I guess it's a silver lining because I think it was my 4th choice. You know, Mayor Marcucci, in his infinite wisdom, decided to put me on finance anyway. But I'm a better man for it, and truly a better man because of George Sapaniak. He was an incredible leader on the Finance Committee. His ability to draw out individual opinions and put them together in some sort of recognizable, understandable statements, and then ultimately draw it to a close, all the while keeping the city's best interests at heart, are really unparalleled. I can say this about George. I don't believe I've ever been in a meeting with George, whether it's been in committee or on council, where I didn't know exactly where George stood at the end of that meeting, without question. And George himself pointed it out. Maybe it wasn't the thing that all politicians would do, but to expect any less from George, that wouldn't be George. He earned my ultimate respect in that. Always, if I have an opportunity to stand in front of a microphone, if I'm addressing or discussing a veteran, I also want to thank them for their service to this country. You have my utmost respect in that regard. And then finally, George, you had spoken a little bit about the friends you've made since you've been up there, and I certainly hope that you consider me one of your friends after our 2 years together. Thank you for your service. And then on to Tom Marcucci. I guess I knew Tom Marcucci well enough to say hi, as most everyone in town did, before I had the opportunity to serve. And as I said before, I've only had 2 years to serve with Tom Marcucci, but it's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to watch him lead and to learn from Tom. It's not too long ago that our downtown area was, and people will hear me say this occasionally, it was Soukups, and it was Chopins, and it was tumbleweeds. And over there on 83 was Corvettes. And that was about it. Tom Marcucci is a man who I have watched take all of the criticism that's aimed toward him, even when it's undeserved. He will always shoulder 100% of that, but he's the very first person, and he did it tonight. He's the very first person to share the credit or deflect the credit. And I will reiterate what Alderman Rose said, is that he doesn't take enough credit. This town, without question, would not be the town that it is today without Tom Marcucci. And you have my heartfelt thanks for that. Finally, I was able to peek behind the curtain for the last 2 years, and I hope people understand the depth of the commitment and the amount of work that Tom Marcucci puts into this job every day. Every day, not Monday through Friday, not 1 hour, every day, Monday through Sunday. Those are some big shoes to fill for the new mayor-elect, but you have my undying gratitude. Thank you, Tom Marcucci.
Who's in charge here? Mr. Hipskin, continuing around.
I'll keep it short. On the at 7:30 tonight, we started up here with 110 years worth of experience. In front of us, 60 years leaves us tonight. We have 50 years left here. We will try and honor the 60 years leaving us with the experience and the honor, and continue on with that. So, thank you.
It's my turn. It's been an honor to serve with all of you. I've known many of you for a long time. You've been great servants. One of the greatest senators in the state of Illinois wrote me a letter once, and he said, the best service you can provide is the closest service to the community that you live in. And I believe that's true, and I think that you've had a great impact on this community, and I hope we can continue to move that forward, what you've started and what you've helped us to do. I've known some of you for a very long time. George, you and I go a long ways back. Tom, you and I go too far back sometimes. like can Tom Marcucci beat Betsy Aldred? Not in your life, Tom. You remember that conversation? But he's a man who has a great deal of honor, and he did the things and had the values that I believed in, and has really shown those things and really brought forth the town and brought the town forward to where it needed to be, and will be sorely missed up here. We'll continue to move forward, but those are going to be tough shoes to fill. And I can't say enough about the rest of you. I appreciate everything that you've done for all of us in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any prepared comments, so this will be short and brief. After I speak tonight, I think I'm going to consult with Alderman Gao to tune up my public speaking now that he has a little bit of free time. I definitely want to thank all of you that I have served with up there. I think that everybody, as already mentioned, brings a unique perspective every single Monday night on the various issues that are anything from, I hate to even say the word, sidewalks to the city budget. So I appreciate everybody's perspective, and I myself as well have sat at the dais thinking I knew what direction I was going to vote, and after listening to the various comments by the various aldermen up here, sometimes I decided to change before roll was called. I do want to single out the three most senior elected officials that are leaving us after tonight. First, Alderman Gao, I referenced his public speaking ability, but with that said, Alderman Gao has always been up front, has been very fluent and precise on his thoughts and where he was coming from, always looked at the issue in detail and was willing to help you out, and I learned a great deal from Alderman Gao, and I thank him for that. Alderman Sapaniak as well. He has also a wealth of knowledge, and I think it's already been touched on tonight, but you always knew where George stood. You might not have always agreed with where he stood, but he always up front and never, ever hid his position, and always had great rationale and the reason why he stood where he stood on an issue. And it's funny when people would ask me about him, who's that George guy, and I cannot pronounce his last name. Just for the record, it is Sapaniak. At least he hasn't corrected me in the 8 years I've been up here. Mayor Marcucci, I thank him as well. I respect him. He's always had a vision for the city of Elmhurst. We have not always seen eye to eye on that, on how to get to that vision, but he's done a great job. The city of Elmhurst wouldn't be where it is today without his vision, without him rallying the troops to achieve the vision of Elmhurst, and I appreciate that. There's always been talk in regards to the division of the council the last few years. I think that he did a good job in regards to giving everybody an opportunity to speak, giving everybody an equal opportunity, I should stress, to speak on their viewpoints of every single issue, and he ran the meetings impeccable. So I think that there's big shoes to fill there. So in summary, thank you all very much for your time served. I appreciate it. I've learned a lot from all of you, and enjoy having Monday evenings free.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a junior member of the council, so I will be brief. I understand there's a lot longer relationships with some of the colleagues that are leaving us tonight. I want to say goodbye to everybody. I've enjoyed serving with you, but I also want to call out two people in particular. Before Maura Moriarty was my colleague up here, and before she was my alderman, she was my neighbor. And she will no longer be my colleague, and she'll no longer be my alderman, but she will still be my neighbor. And more importantly than being her neighbor, she's a dear friend of mine, and I'm really going to miss working with her. She's a good friend of mine, and Maura's been a wonderful friend to the residents of the 5th Ward, standing up for them. And I'm very proud of our work together, and I'm proud of her work on their behalf. She's been a great voice, as a 5th Ward resident, I thank her for her service. And then the second thing I want to say to the second person is I've been sad all week, and I've been sad all day today. And it finally occurred to me why I was so sad. And it's because we won't have Mayor Marcucci to lead us in our meetings up here. And I really have enjoyed the experience of him being at the helm, chairing our meetings. I'm a better person for having watched Mayor Marcucci lead us as a group. I've learned a lot. I've seen leadership in action, and it saddened me all day that we're not going to be able to observe that as frequently as ever again from this spot. And it's been truly fortunate being able to observe that. There's a lot of virtues that you can say about these people up here, what they've accomplished, what they've done. One virtue that I would like to call out is fairness, because I've rarely seen someone be so fair in chairing a body like this. Now, I've spent 2 years working for a federal judge. I'm an attorney, so I'm around a lot of judges and officers and arbitrators, et cetera. But Tom Marcucci is one of the most fair persons that I've ever observed in action, and I've enjoyed working with him, and I'm going to miss coming to our meeting next week and not having him sitting in that chair. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been a pleasure.
My turn. I just want to really say it's been totally my pleasure to work with each and every one of you. I feel honored to have met you. I do respect each and every one of you, your opinions, your personalities, and just your beings. I'm going to miss you all, and I do want to thank Mayor Marcucci, who we have not agreed on a lot of things, but you have been an asset to this town, and you really have done a lot of wonderful things for Elmhurst. Thank you.
We started, we kind of skipped all the Gutenberg there, so the chair recognizes all the Gutenberg.
Thank you. I guess I get...
Acting chair representative.
Well, I guess I get the distinction of being the last person to thank all of you for the years of service, the dedication and commitment that you've all made to the city of Elmhurst. It's been a recurrent theme that we haven't always agreed. That's democracy. And that's what I think you were up here for, and certainly that's what I feel I was elected for. So I appreciate that we were able to share our different viewpoints, that we could have an open discussion, and that, Mr. Mayor, you were able to bring the discussion to resolution so often and so fairly. So for that, I thank you, because I learned a lot sitting up here. I've been on the council for 2 years. It's an amazing place to be, and I got to serve with all of you who were amazing in your own way. I don't want to pick anybody out from this group, because I haven't really prepared anything, and I feel like as a group you've done a tremendous thing for the citizens of Elmhurst. The citizens are should be very honored to have had all of your service, and for that I thank you. So
well, okay, I think that's close to a wrap there. I think on behalf of all the outgoing elected officials, I would say thanks to all of you for your kind thoughts and sentiments. They mean, speaking for myself, and I think speaking for everyone down here, it means a lot to us. This is a great group. As Alderman Gutenkopf just alluded to, we don't always agree. That's democracy. But the work product that comes out of this room is really something outstanding. And I said to Alderman Saponiak, and I hope I don't offend any of my mayoral colleagues looking in from another community, but this is the class act of city councils in this county. I think I can say that with a great deal of surety. They do a fantastic job, and I've just been really honored and pleased to have an opportunity to work with you. The last thing I'll say before I ask for an adjournment is we have a new council coming in next week. We have a new mayor coming in next week. They are, by virtue of macroeconomic forces beyond the control of the mayor of Elmhurst or the city council of Elmhurst, they're going to have some challenges, and they're going to need your support. And they're going to need your understanding, and they're going to need your help. So, we have all kinds of ways now to get in touch with elected officials. Let them know what you think. I'm talking to the people on the TV here as well. Let them know what you think. Let them know what's on your mind. Please understand that when things like we were talking about, this budget cut got mentioned, about a parade got cut out. I mean, we don't want to do these things, but this is what we have to do. Our country's going through a tough time, and Elmhurst is not immune to these things. So they have my support. I hope they have your support. So God bless America, and I need a motion to adjourn. Alderman Regan moves. Alderman Moriarty seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.